soul.
Interesting. You think Brent has the capacity to beat Matt?
100%.
Really?
He's proven it.
White Walker's ridiculous. Let me get on my dragon.
All right.
All right.
Now
Sweet.
onto what we must talk about.
What must we talk about?
The Game of the Thrones.
Oh.
If she had just finished that workout, she would have had enough points to win.
So what color was your pee? It's black.
So
Black is my soul? Are you pointing at me and my soul?
Interesting. You think Brent has the capacity to beat Matt?
100%.
Really?
He's proven it.
White Walker's ridiculous. Let me get on my dragon.
All right.
All right.
Now
Sweet.
onto what we must talk about.
What must we talk about?
The Game of the Thrones.
Oh.
If she had just finished that workout, she would have had enough points to win.
So what color was your pee? It's black.
So
Black is my soul? Are you pointing at me and my soul?
Interesting. You think Brent has the capacity to beat Matt?
100%.
Really?
He's proven it.
White Walker's ridiculous. Let me get on my dragon.
All right.
All right.
Now
Sweet.
onto what we must talk about.
What must we talk about?
The Game of the Thrones.
Oh.
If she had just finished that workout, she would have had enough points to win.
So what color was your pee? It's black.
So
Black is my soul? Are you pointing at me and my soul?
Interesting. You think Brent has the capacity to beat Matt?
100%.
Really?
He's proven it. Welcome back to Scale is Needed, where tired is enough.
Where tired is enough,
And
Armin.
that hasn't changed.
We're back, you guys.
We're back.
back!
All of us
We're here.
together. Myself,
Uh-huh.
Kyle, Clifford,
Uh-huh.
intern Daniel,
Hey now.
Chase.
What up?
All of us are here.
Ralph, Stedman, Gimpy.
Stedman's here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the gimp is in the chest in the
That's
corner,
right, in the
so
corner.
he has to stay there until it's time.
Yeah. The most disturbing part of that whole sequence in Pulp Fiction is when the other guy's watching Zed rape Ving Rhames, just that little sweat that's on his upper lip. Like he's just getting that into it.
Attention to
yeah,
detail.
Yeah.
Oddly, the thing that was most disturbing for me is when the gimp is taken out of that little box that he lives in.
Yeah.
All I was thinking is, damn, that's got to be really hard on the knees, just being in there like
Yeah,
all
that's-
day. I don't think my knees could be in that position all day there.
what
That's
he's-
that,
That's
that would be the
actually
worst part.
the gimp's kink.
Yes.
Is having
Yeah.
his knees hurt.
Well,
knee
you
pain.
got to train for it. It's got you got to work at it over time. Like
That
you-
gimp is really into really poor form squats because the more his knees hurt, the harder his dick is.
Yeah, he's what the thing is, he's a yogi in regular life, just to prepare himself.
Yeah.
Because
That could be an interesting, by the way, an interesting Pulp Fiction sequel because we never see the gimp's face, and it's not official that he died there, you know. So he just gets knocked out or whatever, and so maybe in a Pulp Fiction sequel we could see.
Well,
the further adventures of the
there was a sequel. His name, the gimp's name when he takes off the mask is Bill. It's David Carradine's character.
Oh,
Because he was really into some, into.
autoerotic asphyxiation.
They both died from hanging in sexual context.
I was trying to think this entire time. I was like, which Tarantino movie would it work as?
Oh,
for
yeah.
I was
for the gimp being another character.
Yeah.
So I
That's
was
where
about to
he got the
wildly
taste
try and
for
tie
it.
it into Tarantino Star Trek. Like the gimp just shows up. The gimp is a Klingon.
Well,
Yeah.
There you go.
I was like, what other movie can I use? Like, I can't think of any Tarantino movies this fits in.
They've all been in the past
Yeah.
since then, so it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And
Maybe
this next
in this-
one will be in the
Oh,
past,
yeah, that's
too.
true, that's
and then
true.
one will be in the far future, if that ever happens.
It could be a fan film. I see that as a good fan film. Again, it could be any actor. Why? Yeah.
Okay, what
Tom Hanks is the gimp.
I loved back in the day, they've done this more recently, but I loved when SNL used to do the like fake auditions for movies.
Yeah.
And they did ones for Star Wars and stuff, and then they did one. Who was the fucking gimp?
Richard Dreyfuss.
It was because
No,
Richard
wasn't?
Dreyfuss was C-3PO in the Star Wars auditions. He's like, I can't see what this thing on. Who is that in there? And he pulls it off, and it's Richard.
Am I doing
Dreyfuss.
Richard Dreyfuss again? I don't know.
I don't know.
Uh,
All right.
Anyway, welcome back to Scales Needed. You
podcast
guys,
about fitness.
we are in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
This time last year, we set some pretty audacious goals.
Mm-hmm.
You stopped drinking.
Yep.
Clifford stopped drinking.
Uh huh.
You went keto. Clifford followed a program.
This is true.
I followed a program for a few months.
Daniel starting strength.
Yes.
Chase hadn't been hired yet, but
Yes, that's true.
his spirit was with us.
Chase set the goal to be hired.
Yeah, Chase set the goal to be hired.
And he accomplished it.
Yeah. Once he got his bun up to my level, I hired him as a twin.
Doppelganger.
And,
Stunt double.
Yeah,
Full
stunt double is a
service
good one.
replacement.
We legitimately were mistaken for twins in that's Cal's face. We were mistaken for twins in Miami. Like a waitress was like, "Are you guys twins?" We're like, no. Are you guys brothers? No, we just work together. It's creepy and weird.
You know how you can tell we're not twins? We have different faces.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, all you Americans look the same.
that's right. That's right. We're just in a very weird sexual relationship
Yes.
where we're into what we look like.
It's called mirroring.
Yeah, it's called yeah.
Yo,
It's further complicated by the fact that Chase likes to call me dad. So
I looked in the mirror. I was like, yo, this is fucking dope. If I could just date myself.
It's just like, what was it?
was an episode
Liberace. We're saying Liberace and Behind the Candelabra. Or
it was
30
an
Rock.
episode. No, not even of 30 Rock. It was fucking. What is it? The two girls in New York and they're silly. Broad City.
Oh, Broad City.
Episode of Broad
where
City
she
where the
falls
one
in
girl
love with someone.
masturbates all exclusively like in front of a mirror. She has a mirror set up and then she meets someone who looks just like her and she's mysteriously attracted somehow.
Weird.
It's fun.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
It's a thing. It's called mirroring.
that's why I'm a big fan of Swore the Armenian Men. Guy, what was that laugh? That was awesome. God, I'm glad nothing has changed. Guys,
Actually, so does anyone know the Heimlich maneuver? Kai is actually choking
Yeah,
right now.
seriously.
Someone save his life.
We've been gone for a little while now.
No.
And I can't remember when our last episode was right after Christmas, right before Christmas, where we talked about The Last Jedi. We just never have to talk about that again.
Yes.
I mean, you have to leave the worst things in your lives
Leave them in
behind
the
you
past.
and move on.
At this point, I
block
can't even
that trauma
remember
out.
if I saw it or not.
Yeah,
Did
honestly,
I dream it?
I wish I was
think
that
it's a
way as
dream.
well. I wish I did not remember seeing it either. So now
Porg.
we have come back. We have come
that
back
in
from a whirlwind trip. Clifford and Chase and I were in Iceland for like 9 days.
Yes.
And then Chase and I followed that up with fucking Miami for
Yeah.
another like 5 days.
Similar climates, so
Yep.
it's an easy transition.
And now we have returned having seen the Heart of Darkness, and it has consumed us, I believe. I think whatever nihilism Cliff had, it only grew. Does nihilism grow or does it become
It's
like,
sort of. I felt happier with it all because I could see how much it was upsetting you, and that's my only source of pleasure in life is seeing the pain of others.
You know, guys,
so I was just.
I'll be
amped up
honest
the
with you.
whole time.
I like Cliff. Cliff, as difficult as he is to like, I like Cliff. And yet,
That makes one of us.
I found myself in like a Shining-esque funk the entire time we were in Iceland, which was literally growing darker and more morose as the week progressed until even the very last moment. Here's a perfect example. I know that Katie is watching this right now.
Wait, go
Here's a perfect example of what our trip to Iceland was like.
Go ahead.
At every corner, every turn, we were befuddled and caught off guard and surprised by Iceland's insanity. And that's not necessarily a negative thing. We just were not ready for what it was going to throw at us. And the perfect example of how that went was on our way to the airport. Katie and I took a bus to the airport. We get off the bus. We're walking into the airport, and Katie turns
Is the
around.
airport in Reykjavik? or-
Reykjavik, yep.
Okay.
She turns around to wave to Iceland. Goodbye, Iceland. And as she turns to wave goodbye, Iceland, just a piece of trash right in the face.
Like a cartoon.
So as she was saying goodbye, Iceland gave her a big fat fuck you, Catherine. And
I wish we could have filmed that. Oh my god!
Honestly, I couldn't help. She turned around and was like, "I can't fucking believe that just happened," and I could fucking believe that just happened. That is typical to
Yes.
our experience in
But it was a
Iceland.
newspaper, and then she pulled it down, and then she saw a headline, and she realized that someone stole her invention, and then it started off a whole romp after
Yeah,
that.
yeah, exactly.
So let's not get ahead of ourselves here. So walk me through, as the sole member of this podcast who counts, who wasn't there.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. So departing. What was the trip
need a
like to
paycheck
Iceland?
to count.
Departing. Departing for Iceland.
I missed you guys so much.
Okay,
Really.
departing
for Iceland.
I'm just glad you came back.
So what
I'm
are we
really,
talking-
really glad that your plane didn't maybe just fall into ice and then just
Oh, there are times I wish that would have happened.
Yes. So luxury accommodations, I assume, on the way to on your passage
Yeah,
to
so
Iceland.
we flew. So the event we were there to cover was called WoW Stronger, and it's run by Frederick Agidius and Annie Thorsdottir. And WoW is an Icelandic airline, which is kind of like the Ryanair of international flights. So, or like the Frontier of international flights, I guess would be the North American version. And it's like you can get a one-way ticket from Dallas to London for $170, but that includes a seat and a seatbelt, and that's it. You don't get a bag, you don't get refreshments, you don't get water, you don't get anything. So that's how they keep their prices very low. And so we were luckily enough being taken care of by the airline because of our relationship with the event, and part of the deal was that they would fly us out there to keep our costs down. And so a handful of us actually got sort of like some of the more comfortable seats, right? So like a few of us sat in the front
just
row.
note, in advance of travel, did you send them Cliff's dimensions?
No, we did not. We did not. In fact, Cliff was a late add-on to the entire thing, and he had to purchase his own ticket, which is exactly why instead of getting the bulkhead seats with extra legroom, or even the emergency exit seats with very extra red.
Now here's the fun
legroom.
thing. Two of our fellow employees who were traveling with us were both small women.
I mean, like
next to each other.
5'2" and maybe 95 pounds.
Got assigned seats next to each other in the exit row.
Like feet dangling, not touching the ground.
But alas.
And Cliff was stuck in the subhuman part of the
For those of you listening at home, Cliff is larger than a 95-pound woman.
Yeah.
He is actually 3 95-pound women. Almost exactly.
Yeah. Almost precisely. Yeah. Yes, to the pound almost.
Yes, Cliff is 15 feet tall.
So we went.
Cliff's proportions are nightmarish.
To give you an idea of how this all went, that's really fucking funny. Cliff has Lovecraftian proportions.
Cliff is a phallic, fleshy monolith with just a roar of tentacles sprouting out of the top, and eyes.
Lovecraftian.
And you know what? It's not. It seems bizarre that you guys are choosing a Lovecraftian metaphor. I'm not joking. I'm not going to lie at all. I'm not going to lie at all. The thing I did the whole goddamn time on the flight, I had my Kindle and I read the complete works of H.P. Lovecraft. Not all of them, but I was reading H.P. Lovecraft. But go on if you want to keep setting
So we
up.
got onto the flight, and I get into my seat, and I was like, man, I got fucked. I'm sitting in the middle seat in the bulkhead between two strangers. I have this leg room, but nowhere to put my Nintendo Switch carrier in front of me.
Meanwhile,
6 hours later,
Cliff is keeping his pelvis in the overhead compartment.
6 hours later, we get off the airplane, and Cliff has this look on his face as if he had literally just sat on a bed of dildos.
Cliff looks like the Gimp when they pulled him out of that box.
You know what?
Without the knees.
No. That is the best metaphor from my experience there could ever be. I would have appreciated, I don't know, probably better ventilation in the Gimp's little cage.
Hey Cliff,
there.
how was your flight?
I asked Cliff, because I noticed how ashen he was looking. I asked him how his flight
Cocoa
went,
butter.
and he said, I've never felt more excruciating pain for a longer period of time than I did on that flight. Yeah. The only way I got through it was by listening to, what did you listen
Reading
to?
H.P. Lovecraft.
The only way I got through it was
Color
by
Out of Space, which is, if you're familiar with Lovecraft, that's one of the few optimistic stories he has that has a happy ending.
There you go.
No. But no, to the real deal on it, I've flown coach before and all that, but with coach, usually my knees are touching the seat in front of me, but that involves sitting back in the seat, slouched a bit, and my knees touched the seat in front of me. In this particular instance, my my lower back was shoved as hard as it possibly could be into the seat behind me, such that I was sitting, straight up, maybe even leaning forward, and my knees were forcefully pressing into the seat in front of me. So I could not at any point sit back or lean back. I was basically hunched forward with the seat in front of me about 4 or 5 inches away the entire time. It's like in a window seat sitting next to me was an Icelandic man who was also a fairly large man.
Yes.
Not my proportions, not nightmarish, but a fairly large man.
Yes.
Yeah. It was like the True Detective scene where he's staring at the little mirror.
So travel advice, if you're flying WoW Airlines and coach, and you happen to be the size of Shub Nagaroth, the Black Goat of the Woods who has 1,000 young, then make sure you pay for an exit row. It's worth the extra $50.
Oh my God! Yes,
It's worth the extra $50.
yes, it is. And on the way, I don't know how your flight was on the way back.
On the way back, I paid $50, got a fucking exit row.
Oh,
It was
nice,
beautiful.
Because I was
Beautiful.
I was actually really bummed. I was looking at my ticket, and I knew obviously on the way there my seat was like 1B or something. So I was like, oh fuck, I'm in the front row. That's awesome. On my way back, my seat was like 17A, and I was like, son of a bitch. Like, they put me in Cliff's prison seat on the way back from Iceland. This is going to blow. And then I went, and I was like, oh, this is the fucking exit row. This is great. It was it's actually, and the seats were empty. The plane was like half empty.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
How?
so once we took off, Katie switched seats. And we sat next to each other in the exit row.
Nice.
So it was pretty cool.
So you had a charmed flight out there.
Yeah.
Obviously. When did things turn south? You get off the plane in Reykjavik.
Yeah.
Walk me through it.
We get off the plane in Reykjavik. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, and we have another 8 hours of darkness ahead of us before the sun rises. So exhausted, worn out, and absolutely just not prepared for anything Iceland has to offer us.
In a Lovecraftian nightmare out of time when the sun never rises.
We make our way to the shores of Carcosa, where we're staying, and we get to our Airbnb. It's like 7:30 in the morning. We're all very hungry because we
went to the Yellow King Motor Lodge.
We make it to our Airbnb, and on the way there, we pass by like a Domino's and like a couple other whatever, and we're all very hungry. We all feel like it's nighttime, and so we think to ourselves, why don't we just order some pizza? Tony tries to order pizza and then realizes that, fuck, it's 7:30 in the morning. Nowhere who delivers pizza is open. And so we go and get a little bit of breakfast, which was actually really nice.
The food, there were many, yes. Snaps Bistro in Iceland is amazing. It has an all-you-can-eat breakfast buffet with all sorts of things that aren't normally served for breakfast in America, like raw salmon.
Yeah. Lox.
Nice.
If
It was
you will.
wonderful.
Yeah.
It was actually, it was, the food was the best part.
Yeah.
Lox
Expensive,
are
but
a
the best
common
part.
breakfast food here.
Cliff doesn't know that.
Oh, Cliff doesn't know
What
that.
are
Cliff didn't know
lox?
that.
Yeah,
Lox
they're
is salmon on a
Is
bagel.
the salmon you ate.
You can, if you enjoyed it,
get
you can
that
go
on
to
bagels.
Rockstar Bagels, which is like right there, and you can get lox on your bagel anytime you want.
I don't eat at restaurants here.
This is true.
It's the thing you discover
Well,
over time that Cliff knows just doesn't know food.
Well, I'm not. That's not fair. I think specifically, Cliff is ignorant of things that have to do with carbs, and so I don't think that Cliff has been into a bagel shop in his life. I only know this because my girlfriend is a fan of the bagel, and that's why I know about carbs. That wasn't a euphemism for her being a Jew. That was
A fan of the bagel.
she just actually enjoys bagels.
That's the worst euphemism for Jew I've ever heard.
She's a fan of the bagel, if you know what I mean.
You know what I mean? That's like something from the 20s. Man, she's a fan of the bagel, she? Well, all right. So anyway,
she's a friend of Moses.
there you go. A friend of Moses. That's good. So Iceland very quickly.
She runs the media, if you know what I mean.
Keep going.
No, that's
Give
it.
me
That's
more.
about as close as I'm going to get.
Escalate. Iceland very quickly became kind of like this weird, like it was a coin which had two sides, much like many coins would. One side being this very beautiful, scenic, full of beautiful people, lots of fitness going on, lots of things to see, lots of history. And then the other side of it was like this nightmarish night realm of eternal darkness, where I literally, like, I just could not exist without anger.
So how just for point of clarification, how many for the audience, how many hours per day was it dark while you were there?
20
hours of darkness.
And of the 4 hours of daylight, the sun maybe rises, like 3 degrees over the horizon. So of those 4 hours of daylight, there's like an hour and a half to 2 hours of it, which is essentially either sun up or sundown.
So lots of twilight.
There's a lot of twilight.
And a whole lot of weather such that the sun, the actual, hard sunlight hitting a thing happened for
20 minutes?
Yeah, 20 minutes over the course of the whole trip, maybe, because it was mainly
gray.
either raining or sleeting or snowing or crazy
Which
wind.
is even more disorienting, by the way, because when the sun does come up and light starts like sort of like percolating into the environment, the cloud cover tends to stay.
Yeah.
At least when we were there, only really one night was clear. The rest of it was kind of cloud covered. The cloud cover stays, and you go from like this really sort of like disorienting endless night to what I mean, it was like everything is blue, like blue. Everything is blue tinted because of where the sun is on the horizon and where the clouds are. Everything is tinted blue, and nothing is really quite illuminated. Like everything is just like a little brighter than it was before. So it's still very disorienting. Like it never really got super bright outside of a little bit each day.
I will say this about Iceland: all of the buildings are very much designed to be viewed at night, because they all have just accent lighting features prominently into all the exteriors of all the buildings there. Every building has accent lights.
And the opposite is true the rest of the year. So instead of it being 20 hours of darkness, 4 hours of daylight, it's 20 hours of daylight, 4 hours of darkness.
I don't know, Armin. I think we need to do another trip in the summer and see how psychologically you deal with all the sunlight all the time.
I might be able to be okay. I might do better with more sunlight than I would with more darkness.
Go there in the summer when there's lots of hours of daylight and slowly go crazy while hunting serial killer Robin Williams.
There we go. That's a great idea.
That's how it works.
There you go.
This is amazing, incredible.
Chase fell in love.
Very different reasons for me.
What were your reasons, Chase?
Yeah, Chase, what were your reasons?
Please explain.
Those Targaryen women, man. Incredible.
That is true.
Blonde chicks is what he's saying.
Yeah, Chase. There was multiple times where
Yes.
Chase asked to get photos with people who we did not really even interact with. Like we just happened to be in the same room as them at the same time. And Chase was like, "Do you want to get a photo with all of us?" And I was like, "Why are you making us do this?" And I think it's just because he wanted to have a photo.
Oh yeah.
And any excuse was like, if we're in a group, it's a lot easier for me to ask for this photo than it is to like individually touch this person.
Yes. Yeah. That's like other people who weren't even competitors or CrossFit personalities of note. It's like, hey, can I get a photo with you? Sure. I mean, who knows which one of them would turn out to be Katrin David's daughter? We don't know.
It was fine. It was fine asking for photos while I was at CrossFit Reykjavik and at the competition. It only got weird when I was at the bonus checking out, and I asked the cashier if she'd get a photo with me. It was a little weird. Had trouble justifying.
I like that this is just the only move you have.
Asking to get a photo.
It's like at a bar in Austin. Like he's like walking around. He'll meet a new woman. He wants to talk to her.
Yeah.
Hey, can I get a photo with you?
Chase doesn't need more complex moves.
You know what her answer would be? Enthusiastically, yes.
Yeah,
Have you seen Chase?
That's another thing we found out. Handsome Chase does live with the handsome person filter from 30 Rock.
Oh,
it is a real fucking thing that he actually experienced, and we all witnessed.
Everyone is
times.
nice.
Here's how the handsome filter first manifests itself in New Jersey before we'd even headed out there. It's like me, Armin, and Chase are all standing next to each other waiting to get on our Jersey plane, and then I hope a drunk woman. I hope she was drunk.
This is 8 o'clock in the morning in Austin.
Yeah.
It was
Austin.
here.
Oh, I
yeah.
thought it was in
It's like
Jersey.
8
Oh, no,
o'clock
she
in
was
the morning.
flying
She was
back to
flying back to
Jersey.
Jersey. That's where our flight was out.
Okay, yeah, it must have been. Okay, so anyway, she then I hope she was drunk. If not, she has problems. Then starts a lengthy conversation, very much one-sided, exclusively with Chase. Now, me, Armin, and Chase are all right next to each other. She at no, and this goes on for quite a while.
Yeah.
At no point does she ask to introduce, the other people.
That's right.
Who are
The
standing
only
right
time
next
she
to her.
asked about anybody other than Chase was to look at Katie.
Oh shit! Yeah, Katie shows
Katie
up.
was traveling with us
And
to look at
size her
Katie.
up?
No, and ask if Chase is married to Katie.
Yes,
so
she literally
she goes, "So is that your wife?" And Chase was like, "Oh yeah, no, that's my friend's wife." And she was like, "Ah, cool,
Perfect.
Oh, that's nice.
That was my only opportunity out, and I missed it.
And you totally fucking biffed it.
Yeah, she has a ring on. It's like, oh, my ring fell off because of things.
In
fitness.
fairness, though, from her perspective, there was Chase and then just 2 ficus plants right next to her. That's all she was
Basically,
seeing.
yes. Basically,
that is
yes.
all she was seeing.
Yeah, that was the start of us witnessing Chase's handsome filter.
She capitalized on all those sweet moves by saying that I look like her cousin Ronnie, who's apparently wildly attractive.
Yeah. By the way,
Bad
you
thing.
missed the best part. It's you look like my cousin Ronnie, and that's not a bad thing.
Oh God.
You look like he's like, hey, you look like my cousin Ronnie, except I can fuck you
Without anybody being worried
Yes.
about it.
and
Yeah.
not get as much shit this time.
Yeah. So it was definitely the trip for Chase was, I would say, wasted.
Yes.
Because he did not at all capitalize on any of the opportunities he had with all these women who look exactly like the last girl he was dating.
We
before
don't
he
know
moved
that.
here.
In a couple of in 9 months from now, there could be some beautiful brown-skinned babies who just start popping out in Iceland. There's going to be a whole. He has permanently
Yeah,
got
and they're gonna be
himself
like,
into the genetic
"It's a
lineage.
witch." You have lain with demons.
Chase's progeny is going to be hurled from a cliff.
Only to return in 20 years to burn down Reykjavik. No, that's another thing about Iceland.
During the endless night.
Dude, so here's a perfect encapsulation. 2 examples
The thing
of
that should not be.
yeah, 2 examples of what it means to be Icelandic. I was asking Annie Thor's daughter, Annie, how do you deal with this much darkness? Like, this is a lot. Like, I don't know how to deal with this. And she said, well, it's always bright in the gym. And I immediately a light went off in my head. I was like, oh, that fucking makes a lot of sense. That's why you are who you are, because this is your coping mechanism to endless night.
Yes.
I understand.
Makes sense.
Secondarily, when we asked her about her previous experience at WoW Stronger, which they just started last year was the first year, and she stacked her team. It was her, Frederick Agidius, and some small guy you'd never heard of named Halfthor the Mountain Bjornsson. She was saying how having Halfthor on their team was kind of unfair. I don't know why, because all the strength events that he participated in, he fucking smashed. An example of that would be there was a Max Clean event where it was Halfthor versus Alex Smith. Alex Smith had a mighty struggle, cleaned like almost 400 pounds. Halfthor curled 420 pounds to his shoulders, and then just to show off, pressed it overhead. So she described this experience of Halfthor being on their team in the following way. She said, I don't think it's fair because we had a giant on our team. And when you and I say the phrase, I don't think it's fair because we had a giant on our team, what we're referring to is the idea of a larger human being perhaps being similar to the mythological construct of a giant. What she was saying, I don't think it's fair. We had an actual motherfucking giant on our team. And then it hit me that she's 100% right, because in the Icelandic experience, Halfthor is an actual giant, like a giant the way that we read about giants in medieval times. Giants, like not like, oh, he's a giant human being, like he's actually a giant.
He's the biggest
He's a
person.
different species. Like he is of the giant species, and we are of the human species, and we just coexist because he doesn't want to grind our bones.
Are you saying that she was referencing like the cultural idea that he's from some kind of mythological lineage?
Yes.
Like it's like we had an elf on our team, and his ability to walk on snow was a significant advantage.
That was the vibe I got. Armin is reading a lot into not many words, but it's more about the context, situation, and tone of voice, and just how
she may as well have said it was cheating when we rode our dragons into battle and been 100% serious about it. Yeah, my dragon's back there.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's Iceland in a nutshell. It's eternally dark and cold and full of hardy people who live alongside giants.
Nice.
It's incredible.
That's
Fantastic.
about it. Yeah. From there was Wodapalooza,
Yeah,
which is
we
a
don't-
coke-fueled 1980s.
Yeah, I was just reading about a massive cocaine pipeline going through Miami.
Really?
During the exactly.
Called the bloodstream of everyone in Miami.
Yep.
Yo, you just take your shirt. Oh,
And we have a special guest star on the podcast today, Armin's Nipples, everybody. Armin's Nipples.
They're here.
There you go. But only on the Facebook broadcast. Follow at FloElite on Facebook now for more of Armin's Nipples.
Yeah,
hey,
so
did any of us watch the Born Strong documentary yet?
I have not. I heard about it. I think I was listening to a podcast, and they were saying there's a whole documentary about strongmen on Netflix right now, featuring Eddie Hall and
Thor.
and Thor. And
Yeah,
stuff.
it's called
Yeah,
Born
yeah.
Strong.
Have you
I haven't
watched-
seen it yet.
Chase, have you watched it?
No, I haven't. But
Okay.
Tommy G just asked if any of us had watched it and whether we thought it was just strongman corp propaganda or not.
Oh, I guess
No,
so.
my understanding is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Secondarily, there is a fitness documentary on Netflix, which I
Yes.
cannot tell you enough how
Nick Dalton.
terrible and it is and how not to watch it.
What is it?
I think it's just called functional fitness.
Oh, is
yeah,
it like a CrossFit or
we had a guy on Twitter ask about it, Nick Dalton.
Yeah,
So,
it
you
is.
hear that, Nick?
It's bad.
Bad?
It's like a hobbyist shot some footage in 2013 and 2014, and maybe got like an interview or two. I couldn't make it past like 15 minutes. Like it was really tough to watch.
Didn't we try to watch that while we were in Iceland?
We did try and watch it while we were in Iceland to kind of like decompress,
So
and
it's
then
just
it
as
made us
bad
angrier.
This will take
Angrier.
our minds off of things here.
Yeah, it made us even angrier.
Yeah.
Well, it made me feel much better about as the film shoot we were there to do was continuing to tank. It made me feel better about our prospects, seeing that Netflix would. The standards for Netflix was this
Fat low.
Fat low. So I think what I'm saying is the film we shot with Armin, traveling around Iceland and going further and further insane, is going to be on Netflix next year. Everybody,
Yeah, it
perfect.
should be. That is bad. It's bad.
Yeah.
Don't watch it. But Born Strong, I've heard, is pretty good.
All
So
right.
I'll definitely
We'll
check
watch
it out
it,
at some
and
point.
then we will report back on it at some disorganized point in the future.
Wodapalooza was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was.
How many hours of darkness?
Oh,
I don't know. I mean,
how long is the whole weekend? Like more than 72 hours?
Sure. Let's say 3 days, 72 hours.
Yeah.
About 72 hours of darkness.
72 hours total. This is true.
Yeah, Wodapalooza was cool. It was like a Thursday through Sunday event this year, and we saw a bunch of pretty cool stuff. Some athletes who have a good season coming up for them, like Dakota Rager and Street Horner, who were CrossFit Games rookies last year, and
Names
those
mean
are real.
nothing
Yeah,
to me.
yeah.
But I'm pretty sure you made them up.
No.
Street?
Yep, STREAT.
Like those sound
Street.
like those sound like
Street.
the names from a Streets of Rage knockoff video game.
Which would, of course, take place in Miami.
yes,
Yes,
Neon, cocaine.
Yeah.
I'm Street. What was it?
Horner.
Street Horner. God damn it.
Yeah,
Did he have a thin red bandana on at all times? It was whipping in the wind behind him.
But he had a thin bandana on, but he also had a matching one on his arm.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
to,
Yes,
like float around.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Street and Dakota had crazy good performances. But if you would see the event list for Wodapalooza and known what they were good at beforehand, you'd be like, oh yeah, these guys will kill it. It's body weight movements, nothing too crazy heavy on the bar, and just like crazy capacity levels. Dakota, we had seen him at our regional, right?
Yep.
And that's what he threw down on. So
Oh,
I guess we
Dakota's a
should have saw
man.
it coming, but we did
Yes.
Because of Dakota Fanning, I was assuming.
That was a joke that I made with Chase as well, and Chase corrected me and said apparently Dakota is a unisex name.
Interesting. And a state.
Yes,
2 states.
2 states.
not. Yeah, all the Dakotas I knew were males.
Which
Dakota
of the
Fanning's the
Dakotas is male, and which is is North Dakota?
The one on top.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Anyway, so
Also, Street is a name.
Maybe South Dakota's the male. He just likes to
That's
chill.
the bigger point that you guys are missing.
Do all the work.
Street Horner is a name.
guys.
it's a badass name for a badass CrossFitter.
Yeah.
Bethany Shadburn, who we knew last season as Bethany Branham. She also did really well, and
Wait,
seems to
Bethany
be-
Branham is the one
she's
who's here,
local.
right?
Yeah, she's up north.
What's the new last name?
They got a divorce, so now she is Shadburn.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
It went the
And-
other way.
It went the other way.
Went
yeah.
the other way.
And then Lindsay Valenzuela is back on the
Nice.
on the competition floor, which is really cool to see.
Good.
And in 2013, she was like second place, I think, at the CrossFit Games. So
She
I mean, that's a
podiumed somewhere.
pretty big fucking deal.
Yeah,
Like,
had
just
a baby
few-
in the interim.
Yeah, she had a baby, and now she's back. And I think this year, I mean, she still has the capacity to make it back to the games for sure, even in like a tougher region that they adjusted the regions. But you know, it's pretty cool to see her back. And yeah, there was a bunch of other, I mean, Noah Olson was there, Travis Mayer was there,
They
a
were
couple other
being
people were
teams,
there.
though, right?
Yeah, they were doing teams.
Mm-hmm.
Canadians were doing teams. A bunch of like the top CrossFit Games girls were doing teams, like China Cho and Lauren Fisher and Emily Bridgers were on a team together, which is like fucking not even fair. Like, it was just like we walked in and they took the lead from event 1 and literally just grew their lead the entire weekend.
Yeah,
It also wasn't fair. They had a dwarf on their team.
Yes.
And who had kept fashioning axes. For
The
them.
elf which walked on water made the swimming
Yes.
event a lot easier for them.
Exactly.
Did you mention Carrie Pierce? Did we mention?
Carrie Pierce did really well.
Yeah.
Kenzie Riley did really well. Garrett Fisher did really well. Alex Anderson did pretty good.
Nice.
T-Rex
Tim
Timmy Paulson did pretty well.
Coolest event. What was the coolest event?
Oh shit.
100% by far, hands down, one of the best events I've ever seen in any venue for anything
Yeah.
is the strong swim event. And I think it's one of the most like elegant and painful things that could be programmed. And it's just a great combination of things. It works something like this. It's 2 rounds for time of like a 200 or 300 meter swim, 150 air squats, 10 cleans with a 200-pound sandbag, and then a 50-foot sandbag carry.
Say that one more time.
It's a 2 rounds,
Uh-huh.
200 or 300 meter swim, followed by 150 air squats, followed by 10 cleans with a 200-pound sandbag, followed by a 50-foot sandbag carry.
That was your favorite?
That was by far my favorite event.
Why?
Because it's a couple things. One is no one got even remotely close to finishing it. The time cap was a little aggressive, and secondarily, a 200-pound sandbag. The sandbags that they were using, that 200 pounds feels a lot more like 250 pounds because of the shape of the bag. The bag is like shaped like an oil drum, so it's very long. Like it basically goes all the way from like the top of your. If you're like standing, it goes from the top of your knees to like your clavicle. Is like how big the bag is.
And how are they cleaning it? Like,
So the roll was over the shoulder, but.
are there like straps on it or something?
No,
or
it's literally like a bag full of 200 pounds of sand. And so you have to like pick it up, lap it, hug it tight, clean it, and like lean back and toss it over one of the shoulders.
so like an over the shoulder.
Like an
thing.
over the
Gotcha.
shoulder.
Yeah,
Gotcha,
and this sandbag wasn't evenly distributed,
Yeah,
right? Like
because
the
it's-
sand could move around.
Because it's tall, the sand moves around. So sometimes it would
Yeah.
flop, sometimes it would like all go down to the bottom, sometimes it would go out to the top.
Now these bags of sand, or the sand is on the inside. What is a bag? Explain it to me one more time.
It's a container
Yes.
made of meat,
Yes.
shipped fresh from Asgard.
Perfect.
Anyway, yeah. So I thought that was a very elegant and challenging event that they put together for that, and it was really fun to watch. Almost nobody had any experience with the actual bags before, so that made a giant difference.
Cool.
You know, a lot of people who didn't know how to use those particular bags were getting crushed by them.
Yeah.
And that bag is like 200 pounds for that workout is so fucking heavy. It's way too heavy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Garrett Fisher, who's notably known strong as F, like everywhere. I watched him fail a couple reps with this bag. Like he'd get under it, lap it, and then just collapse.
Yeah, it like wouldn't go anywhere.
That sounds like a lot. 200-pound
It's
sandbag.
it's a lot.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
I have one. The 200-pound sandbag. I have one at the house. You've played with.
Yeah,
it, Cliff.
did I push that one over my head?
I don't think you did.
I pushed the 150
The 150.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You sure?
Maybe I think you tried to get the 200 overhead, and you may have like locked out for a split second.
Yeah,
Oh,
no, I think, yeah, I
you
did.
did.
I did
I
lock
got
it
a
out for a
picture
split
of you
second.
locking
So
out for a
that's
split
why
second.
that's why I'm wondering. It's like they didn't have this much trouble. I got that fucker
I gotta
over my
disagree with you,
head.
Armin. I'm pretty sure I did
Here's
something
the
awesome.
thing.
Yeah, I remember like perfectly
Yeah.
timing the moment.
Oh,
Where
exactly.
your
Because
elbows
I
were
didn't
locked out.
hold it
No, you just, like,
overhead.
The
Right.
worst part was
Here.
that when he got it overhead and then you got the rest of it when it fell down and broke his neck on the way down.
Yeah.
But, like that one moment of glory
was
totally worth
totally
it.
worth it. Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was my favorite event. Why, Chase? Did you have a different favorite event?
Yeah, I really dug the RPM chipper, which was the ring dips, tandem deadlifts. But I liked it from a team perspective. I didn't really care for it for the individuals. But there was true form, and then there was buddy carries. And buddy carries, if you're gonna have a team competition, I think you have to have that in there at some point because you absolutely have to have a teammate for it.
Yeah.
A lot of these workouts that we see for team competitions, you can just do them individually. It's just a bunch of people on a team working out individually.
Yeah, the chipper was basically like, it was like 3 different couplets. One of them was ring dips and tandem deadlifts. The other one was like, it dumbbell snatch, double squat snatch, and double unders. Yeah. And then there was like true form sprint and buddy carry lunges. So you like basically like rotated through partners. Like each there's 3 people on the team, and you always like 2 going. So each one did 2 pieces, and it was really fun to watch. Like watching people do like the buddy carry partners. Sometimes you had like oversized teammates with tiny little teammates who like toss their little like child teammate on their shoulder and just sprint through the lunges and stuff. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, there was a lot of that was the big thing that we talking to the athletes there that were on teams. That was one of their favorite things. There was a lot of strategy that went into these workouts. They had to actually think about it. And kind of position themselves in a way that they're utilizing their best athletes for each movement, which I guess you don't see a whole lot in regular team competitions.
True.
Anyone can do that shit.
Yeah, you usually just see team competitions like it has 1,000 people on the floor and you have no fucking idea what's going on.
Or stretchers.
Ideally.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think what else has happened since then. Apparently, Maddie Rogers might be getting a silver medal from her bronze medal performance.
Ooh, we
at
had
Worlds.
yet more drug testing.
How?
Who'd have thunk it? I think the woman who finished in 2nd place, right in front of her, has allegedly tested positive for something. And while the process is not over, like her B samples haven't been tested, and she hasn't gotten her entire sort of like what you would call it, like appeal process completed. If it ends up being true, they'll strip her medals, and Maddie will move into
What country is this person from?
Albania.
No, that sounds like a bad guy country.
Aren't the bad guys from Taken Albanian?
What was that?
Taken?
I don't know. Were they? They may well have been.
Yeah. Well, I mean, overall, the bad guys from Taken were
any
was
country
it like Saudi,
vaguely Eastern European.
There's something Eastern European-ish.
The last guy that he killed on the yacht in the first Taken movie wasn't that guy.
Oh wait, no, it was the daughter was being auctioned off to various rich guys.
Oh, okay.
Amongst them could have been like some Saudi guys or something.
I think so. It was the Albanians were selling the daughter.
Yeah,
and it was like an Arabic dude that bought the daughter.
Yes.
Yeah.
All
cool.
bad guy countries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yep.
Yeah.
As a part of an Albanian sex trafficking ring.
There you go.
Yep.
My useless memory for action movies has finally paid off.
For getting caught, she will be trafficked to.
Which, by the way, I think it's really telling that like I hover over Albanian sex trafficking ring on Wikipedia, and there is just an article.
There's an article just about the real one.
Yeah, like it's just like
wow.
It's like part of an all highlighted in blue Albanian sex trafficking ring.
You know that if your country and sex trafficking ring are a hyperlink, you might be a redneck.
Yeah, so that's happening. So who knows exactly what the end result of that is going to be. But I read that off of a link I found on Reddit that was linked out of like an actual Albanian newspaper.
Yeah.
So
which is why do these things take so long? Why is it like we're like months out and
Dude,
just like how long do lab tests take?
You want to hear something even fucking crazier why this takes so long? So we all know that the IOC has given the International Whaling Federation, so the International Olympic Committee has given the International Whaling Federation sort of like ultimatum of sorts. Clean up your act or you're out of the fucking Olympics. And there, a lot of it came from the 2008-2012 retests where so many different weightlifters tested positive, including one Ilya Ilin, who up until then was widely considered like one of the greatest weightlifters of all time. Ilya's samples in 2008 and 2012 both tested positive. The assumption was like, this guy's fucking done. He's going to get a lifetime ban. It's not going to ever come back out of this. And that was in June of 2016. So right before the Olympics, this happened. And so the IOC has been on the IWF like, listen, you're gonna have to change the weight classes. You're losing quota positions for weightlifters at the Olympics. You know, after 2024, there's no guarantee you're gonna be in the Olympics. You know, you have to clean your shit up or we're gonna axe you. And the IWF said, oh yeah, for sure, we're gonna clean our shit up. Look, we're gonna take care of all of these weightlifters who tested positive in 2008, 2012, and we're gonna take care of them in such a good way. You're gonna be super proud of us, IOC. And here's the result that they've come up with: Ilya Ilin, who took steroids through 2008, 2012, probably through his entire fucking career.
20 years of steroid use.
Who won gold in both those years and had both those medals stripped away from him, will be eligible to compete in international weightlifting tournaments starting June of this year. June of 2018. They looked at his history of steroid abuse and thought to themselves, I think a 2-year ban should be enough to appease. And
they gave him time served.
They made up this weird. So usually, what they do is if you get caught and your provisional suspension begins while your appeal is going on, and then if your appeal doesn't go through, they count that time as part of your suspension. So that makes sense. That's okay. The issue is, they gave him only a 2-year suspension, and it's been 18 months since the provisional suspension, which means that first he has 6 months left on his suspension. And the reason why they gave him a 2-year suspension is because they kind of just made up this rule out of nowhere where you cannot count multiple sanctions or multiple positive tests as multiple positive tests without first informing the athlete that they have tested positive. So like a second violation must follow a first violation. You can't have both a first and second violation happen at the same time. And because Ilya was never informed that he tested positive in 2008, his positive test in 2012 is kind of just like thrown out the window, and they just look at it as, hey, you tested positive once, and by the way, back then the sanction was only 2 years, where now it's a minimum of 4. So back then the sanction was only 2 years. So they're like, you know what? We're going to use the rules from back then. And also, we're only going to count this as 1. And also, please kick us out of the Olympics, IOC. Please do that. Because we hate being in the Olympics, apparently.
Yeah, they were like, it's our bad for not catching you the first time around. So we wouldn't want to hold that against you, because it was us, really, not you. It was us who didn't catch you. So it would be wrong to hold that against you.
Here's a lifetime supply of clean needles. Don't do anything crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
But if it's not...
go ahead.
Oh, if it's not in the Olympics, then what are people going to call it?
They're going to call it non-ollie.
Not non-ollie.
No, the sport is called weightlifting.
But
CrossFitters started calling it ollie.
The ollie platform, the ollie bar, the ollie plates.
So I was thinking, like, with all of the various like tests and whatnot that come through, and then people being moved up or down like rungs or whatever. What's that got to be like to be sitting in your house one day? You knock on the door, and then it's a FedEx package, and it's your fucking silver medal, and just like open up the package, clunk on the kitchen counter. I won. Hooray!
I'll tell you what it feels like. My understanding is it feels like fucking garbage, because you are essentially robbed of like the pinnacle of your sport. And in that case, when you're going to the Olympics, aka the pinnacle of your fucking life, and then 8 years later, it turns out that the people who everyone knew was cheating were cheating, and now you get a medal in the mail if they didn't fucking like pawn it off.
Thankfully, the medal also in the same envelope is they retroactively give you all of the sponsorship money and everything that you would have gotten had you got a medal in the first place. So, and they erase all of the hardship that happened over the course of that 8-year period.
8 years you spent as a Home Depot employee trying to pay your bills.
Hey, listen, that's honorable work, Armin.
It is.
Don't shit on Home Depot. They
really fucking different.
America's heroes or something.
As we're reminded every 2 years at the Olympics, Home Depot is what makes the Olympics possible, all right?
I would not be surprised if that's the case. Home Depot.
They're doing a lot more.
Literally, they run the commercials every 2 years.
Yeah, the only reason why those athletes have the time to train is because they can work like these weird night shifts offloading trucks for Home Depot. I get it. And it looks like they're going to have to be like the main sponsor for the IWF eventually when weightlifting is fucking kicked out of the Olympics for silly fucking decisions like this.
Finally have the all drug
Yeah, the all drug.
We have
Yeah.
already been having the all drug
I know.
Olympics.
No, we've had the all drug, but we're trying to hide it Olympics.
Yeah.
Now it's the openly injecting as you go out
Listen,
to the
what we need to
to
do
the
is really
platform
take the
Olympics.
reins off of the Americans so they can start taking all the good drugs.
I get it, you guys. I know how it can still be called Oli lifting.
Uh-huh.
It'll be after it's kicked out of the Olympics. It'll be moved as one of the events on Olympia weekend. So, Mr. Olympia weekend, the bodybuilding, World Championships of Bodybuilding, will have Oli lifting, Olympia lifting.
I thought you were going to say that they could have the event hosted by Timothy Olyphant, the actor
Oli
from Unjustified.
That's Plan B.
Plan B.
Yeah. So
Or perhaps they would have a picture of an Oliphant, the
from
mythical
Lord of the Rings.
creature from Lord of the Rings.
Good call.
Just like the giants and the elves
And
mentioned
Cliff.
earlier in this podcast.
That's a callback.
Callback,
Full
you guys.
circle. Yeah. So in the midst of all of the IWF trying to reorganize the weight classes and figure out how they're going to make sure that there isn't a lot of cheating, and maybe even looking at new possible competition formats, like actually completely changing the way weightlifting is competed, like no longer doing snatch sessions, clean and jerk sessions, and totals, but finding different ways of competing. As they're trying to figure out all of that, they apparently forgot that they have to be hard on people who take drugs. So now,
So what's the what you're saying that they're evaluating the format?
yeah,
Somewhere in what way?
there's a potential that in like 6 or 7 years time, weightlifting will no longer be competed the way it is right now. Right now, it's like you have a snatch session where everybody snatches, the weight on the bar constantly moves up. You get 3 attempts, and then you have your heaviest snatch is the number, and then 10-minute break. Clean and jerk sessions, same idea. Everyone gets 3 attempts. The weight on the bar constantly moves up. At the end of it, your snatch plus your clean and jerk is your total, and they give out medals for the snatch, medals for the clean and jerk, and medals for the total. That is a format. That just happens to be the format that they're using right now. But there's a lot of other ways you can have weightlifting competitions, some of which are significantly more exciting. For example, at Wodapalooza, they had something they called the weightlifting face-off, which is a bracketed tournament where weight class doesn't matter because it's all done by Sinclair formula, which is a mathematical formula which equalizes body weight. So you can have someone who weighs 300 pounds compete against someone who weighs 150 pounds, and you can find out who's the better lifter pound for pound without worrying about the actual absolute number. So it's like a way of making a relative strength adjustment versus an absolute strength adjustment. So we saw this happen at the Wodapalooza weightlifting face-off, where it was like this bracketed tournament, and the final round for the men was Fernando Reyes, who's a Brazilian super heavyweight who can snatch 450 pounds, 440 pounds, and Mighty Mouse Matt Rote, who's like a team CrossFit Games athlete who weighs 160 pounds, 165 pounds, and can like snatch 315, maybe like 300 on like a really good day. So he's like super fucking strong. He's obviously not absolutely as strong as Fernando Reyes, but they were able to compete against one another because it's Sinclair based.
Interesting.
So, yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways of doing it. That one is really interesting. That format is like a head-to-head format where you get anywhere from 3 to 5 attempts, and while you're going, your opponent is resting, so you go back and forth, and you only have to ever watch one person lifting, and the lifts that you have are completely calculated based off of like the scoreboard tells you they need this lift to hit this Sinclair total so that they can take the lead, etc.
And the Sinclair formula is just what? Weight of lift over body weight?
No, it's normalized. So there's a lot more that goes into it. But off the top of my head, I don't know exactly what it is.
It's like what, race based or or,
race factors in
yeah,
heavily.
it does.
Or like
Go on.
Dear God.
I mean,
Go
the more friendly you are with bagels, the more it weighs against you.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what are the other variables that are relevant.
I mean, listen, off the top of my head, I don't
Height,
know.
I guess.
But hey, Chase, you
Height
have the
is not.
internet machine in front of you, right? Why don't you look up Sinclair coefficient?
I can't read.
There seem to be two relevant factors.
There
Body
are
weight
2 relevant factors,
and
but you
weight you're lifting.
You can't just use body weight over weight
right.
lifting because a lighter person would always win.
Yeah.
Now, Sinclair already favors lighter athletes because it's body weight based, but you can't only use body weight based because then a lighter person will 100% of the time win. Because, for example, a double body weight snatch and a triple body weight clean and jerk is normal for world champions in like the smallest men's weight classes, but the heaviest ever double body weight snatch was 200 kilos at 100 kilos. So you're never going to see a heavyweight or super heavyweight snatch double body weight because they weigh too fucking much.
And you'll never see anyone beat that little North Korean guy who clean and jerked 3 times his own body weight.
Plus, 3 times plus.
3 times plus.
Go ahead, Chase, read it.
The answer that I got for the Sinclair coefficient is, what would be the total of an athlete weighing X amount of kilos if he/she were an athlete in the heaviest class of the same level of ability?
I have no. What the fuck does that mean?
I'm looking at the
Daniel,
what happens with
Daniel,
that.
you can read better than this. I think.
So it's actual total multiplied by the Sinclair coefficient equals the Sinclair total. So the Sinclair coefficient is whatever helps you normalize it so everybody weighs the same amount.
That's what I asked you what it is.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Is so I'm on the Sinclair page right here.
Okay.
We're looking through it. The Sinclair coefficient, I think, is based on weight class.
Based on the world records of that weight class.
The world records of said weight class.
Okay,
there you
world
go.
records.
That's the third variable.
For each relevant weight class, there is then a different coefficient that is then put into the formula.
Bingo.
Gotcha. Okay, so it is basically it is how much you are lifting relative to the very best lift that anyone who's weighed what you weigh has ever lifted.
Perfect. Yep, that's a great way to describe it.
I can understand.
Yeah. That's the variable. The world record total is the third variable.
For all of you guys and figured
Good
it
job,
out.
Kyle.
To the greatest.
I don't like
Sinclair.
I don't like anything about it.
It's really exciting to watch, and the
It is.
athletes liked it quite a bit. Other than that, they are doing a shit ton of reps.
I guess
at very high weight.
Yeah, I guess I would have to see. I mean, I imagine it's probably more exciting than the other formats. I mean, I think I could see doing some sort of thing where people are lifting off, but I think something about the weight classes and just seeing the little people compete against the little people. Like for me, there's no thrill in seeing like a little guy and a big guy lifting 2 completely different weights going head to head. I just don't like there's nothing tangible to compare between those 2 things. Whereas like 2 big guys both lifting the same amount of weight, and see who can get it up. See who can get it up.
Did any of you guys ever play Def Jam Fight for New York or Def Jam Vendetta on GameCube?
No.
I did.
Daniel did.
So you have famous rappers fighting each other in a different venue than you ever seen rappers fight each other. That's kind of how this face-off was.
Super cool.
You had crazy Brazilian Olympic weightlifter meets up with this CrossFitter that's pretty strong, and then people are just screaming their faces off at them to kill each other.
Yeah, I can dig it. Like I can dig that as a format, like an exciting format, like the face-off format. But this coefficient thing, I don't know.
It's all make-believe.
It's all witchcraft to me.
Basically. It basically is all witchcraft. I'm trying to figure out what the actual ratio is there, though. That's cool. Anyway, so the Sinclair coefficient, Sinclair total, allows you to figure out pound for pound who the best weightlifters of all time is, by the way. And the highest Sinclair ever is owned by Pocket Hercules, who just passed away.
Oh, yeah.
Naeem Suleimanoglu.
That guy.
504.
Yes.
Dude.
504, dude. That's gnarly. Which means that if he was a super heavyweight, he would have totaled 504 kilos.
Nice.
So
which means if he was super heavyweight, he would have snatched over 500 pounds and clean and jerked close to 600 pounds.
So
that's pretty cool.
Speaking of greatest Olympic weightlifter of all time, you
to
got to
me.
talk to the greatest powerlifter,
Dude.
questionably, of all time.
You guys, I
What?
met Steph Cohen.
Oh, really?
Steph Cohen is my new favorite thing.
Yeah.
She is so fucking cool.
Yeah.
And she's in Miami.
Cool.
That's where she and her boyfriend Hayden, boyfriend Hayden have like a gym together.
Armin, you're married.
Facebook
Chill.
official.
And what's that?
You officiated their wedding just now.
Okay, cool. So
Nice.
they have a gym there. She trains out of there. And I asked her what her plans are for 2018. First of all, she said 600-pound deadlift. What is right? Secondarily, she followed that up with...
That's like a 75-pound increase from, right? Isn't her
her
max like
previous
5?
max is like 525 in
Yeah.
competition, but I think she's pulled like in the 520s for multiples since then.
Okay.
But she also said that right now she has like the second. So the Sinclair for powerlifting is called Wilks. So she currently has like I think the second highest Wilks of all time, and her goal is she is only second to someone whose like powerlifting career is like 25 years long. So she's only been powerlifting for a couple years now, and her goal is to be the greatest powerlifter of all time by Wilks, which is fucking gnarly. And she is so goddamn strong. I mean, we've seen her videos.
Yes.
She's insanely strong.
I keep sending them to you guys on Instagram.
We talked a little bit. I don't know if I can't remember if this was during the interview or not, but we talked a little bit about people like doing the whole like, oh, it's fucking cheating because you're doing sumo deadlifts, or it's fucking cheating because you're using straps. And she's like, I don't fucking care what you think.
I would like
who you
I
are.
would like I would like the vast majority of males who are following her to then go spread their legs as far apart as they can, and then and then try and pick up 525 pounds for multiple reps.
Yeah, she basically was like, no one fucking cares what you think.
Yeah. Well, then what's nice about her?
That's accurate.
What's nice about her is that it's not even. It's like she's lifting so much weight that for the most part, it's like she's just objectively stronger than any detractor of either gender in an absolute sense.
Like I would take her squat numbers, her deadlift numbers. I would be like, man, one day I'll train until I can do that.
Yep.
That's a lifetime goal.
That's the thing, is that like quite literally.
What's her squat?
I've seen her rep.
15.
Yeah, but she's like I see her repping at like 375.
Right.
And that stuff for like the 3 to 5 range.
She's redonkulously
The thing is, like, I have done that. But we are at that marginal range where this 123-pound woman is right close to the strongest I've ever been when I was my healthiest, and I had 2 knees. You know, so if she gets any stronger at all, it will become unambiguous that she's taller.
A knee and the suicide note left by your
yes, exactly.
What can we use to repair Kyle's knee after he committed suicide? Well, all we have left is the suicide note, so whatever, fuck it, just stitch that in there.
I have one knee, and then I just have a boarded up old shack that like mice run in and out of. And you walk by it every day, and you're like, it's weird that there's space in there. There's probably like hobos and shit. Like kids are daring each other to spend the night in my knee.
A knee and some putty akin to the texture of Gumby.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Yeah, so Steffi Cohen is you know what? We're best friends now.
Yep.
So
we should have her on the podcast.
Dude, I'm definitely gonna go out to Miami and see their gym because I've seen videos of their gym in her training videos. By the way, Hayden is a fucking monster too. Like, you know, his lifting videos are really impressive as well. It's just that Steph just happens to be, you know, greatest powerlifter of all time deal. Yeah. So hopefully, fingers crossed, sometime 2018 we're going to see some pretty cool content with her.
Would you say is she too strong?
Hot take?
Hot take.
Nope.
She's too strong.
Let's just open the door to that question and then shut it.
At what point do we wonder, you know, is she overdoing it? Should someone who's 123 pounds lift that much?
Well, she is a friend of the bagel. Friend of the bagel? Fan of the bagel? She's a fan of the bagel. She's
and
a friend of Moses.
She'll never come on the podcast.
She's a friend of Moses.
She's a friend of bagels.
I don't remember. I didn't remember what your thing was. One of our buddies, Josh, who's
you know what Kyle always says? Her friends are bagels.
One of my buddies, Josh, who's Jewish, Josh Goldstein. He's on Instagram as Farb the Bear Jew.
With a name like that?
Yeah, Farb the Bear Jew, and he took a picture with her.
Don't try and backpedal it to I have friends who are Jews.
No.
You can't get yourself
He took
out
a picture of her and was like, Stephanie Cohen is one of the strongest Jews to ever live. Like, I'm so proud to be next to someone of the tribe that this is strong. And I was like, none of us can ever do that. You're the only one that can do it. Do it, Josh, for all of us. Just say it for all of us.
Say it for all of us. The rest of us just have seething anti-Semitism right underneath the surface that just never gets to see the light of day.
Would you say that Hayden's living that James Hobart life?
What does that mean?
As that he's the significant other to someone that just happens to be the greatest of all time at their sport.
Wait, who is James Hobart's girlfriend?
Are you saying Rich is James's boyfriend?
Oh, wait, I get it.
Who's Rich's girlfriend, or who's James's girlfriend?
Rich Froning and him aren't a thing?
That's right. I get it. I got it.
Okay.
Chase was one step ahead of us.
I see what you're doing there.
That was dry. That was dry. I respect that.
That's good. That's good. That's solid. That's solid. You know, Rich has spent his entire career beating up on all of his training partners. So, you know, there's that.
Yeah, it's that effect where you're like, man, that guy sucks. But then you like see him work out and you're like, oh, he's still miles ahead of me.
Yeah, that is a good point. There is always that loss of perspective for literally everybody who's ever gone and trained full time with Rich. Just they spend 2 years losing every single day multiple times, and you can see the light leave their eyes.
Yeah, it's the same thing that happens with Steph. That's what I was saying.
Okay.
You know, that's a real thing, by the way. They talk about that. Like some wrestlers talk about that. How sometimes was when so there's a lot of college wrestlers who transition out into like kind of the freestyle world afterwards. So they wrestle in like these kind of brutal collegiate wrestling rooms, folk style at Iowa or at Penn State, something like that. Then they go and they have teammates or they have underclassmen who take their place at their weight class. Then they go out into the freestyle world, and sometimes they're having to face off against guys who are on the same team as them, who maybe were the guys who took their place after them or whatever. And there's a whole, and I've heard them talk about like an upperclassman, underclassman thing. Whereas if you have it in your head that this guy, you know, who was like a senior when I was a sophomore, who was always beating up on me in the wrestling room back then, if I face off against him at World Team Trials to make it to the Olympics, that they can't get over that psychological barrier.
Yeah.
I've heard them talk about like, you know, if this guy wrestles this guy, and there's have been instances where guys have come back, you know, wrestled the person who took over their team. They still view them as upperclassmen versus underclassmen and can't get through that, and there was a result of upsets. So you have to wonder, what's the confidence level of someone who, as opposed to being the big dog in his gym, who thinks, man, my dick is 3 feet wide because I'm beating up on everybody. I must be the fittest man alive. He goes into the CrossFit Games versus someone who loses every single workout, every single day, and he knows that he doesn't have that thing in the back of his head that says, maybe on my best day, I will win the CrossFit Games. I'll beat everyone else. Instead, he goes in every day knowing on my best days, there's always one guy who's better. Now, he might be the fittest guy on earth.
And he's eating my Cheerios.
Yes, that's
right. During this monologue, he's eating my breakfast.
Yeah, that's definitely.
That's basically it. That's why everyone has moved away from Cookville, I think.
That's a real thing. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I'm curious to see an update, though, with Fraser living in Cookville,
you know,
training frequently with Froning. How is that going?
There is a chance that I may actually be able to answer that question at some point in the future.
Cool.
And if I mean, I can't say a lot about it, but if I can, you guys will be the first people to possibly hear about it after everyone else does.
Oh my god.
It's going to be great.
Stay tuned, you guys.
Will be the first people to hear about it after everybody else does.
Shut up, Chase. So
this is how Cliff and I will hear about it. Armin will mention on the podcast. So you guys know how I'm going to Cookville. And we're going to say, what? And then he's going to say, well, I tweeted about it and I put it all over FloElite like a week ago. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry.
Like, what is Flo?
I don't visit that website.
FloElite?
Ever since the wave turns orange from silver, I just,
It's just not the same, bro.
It's
not the same.
You've changed.
Yeah.
You specifically.
Yeah, Rich Froning has... There's a reason why I think Rich was very smart with how he presented himself in the years of his dominant reign. He basically made himself the upperclassman and everyone else the underclassman for 8 years, pretty much. And it worked, and it continues to work because I still think people get into competition with him and believe that they should lose to him. So
there's just, I cannot imagine, after Matt Fraser's performance in the last CrossFit Games, that there's a Rich Froning out there who's not training for individual competition, who's beating him at anything.
Well, okay, so that's a great point, and I brought this up to we have a guy here, Ryan Fenton, who works at Flow, and he's a track guy by his background, and I was trying to describe to him the difference between Rich Froning and Matt Fraser, because he asked me, he was like, so who would win if Rich came back individual, which is a really strange question to ask when like everyone's asking that question. It's like cool that question is like sort of transcending past just like nerdy gym talk. And I mean, obviously I have no answer to that, who knows, but the thing that I kind of like explained to him was Rich Froning won the CrossFit Games 4 times as an individual, never until the very end really having to push himself to his full capacity. Like everything that he did, he was never I mean, he ran away with it on the last day of competition, but generally speaking, he had to like work his way to the top throughout the weekend and then spend the last day, because he was so well conditioned, dominating the competition where everybody else was falling apart. But in each individual event, his whole thing, and he always said it himself, was all I'm trying to do is beat the person next to me. So he never really was forced to, put out 100% of his maximum effort, because no one was ever pushing him to 100% of his maximum effort. The only time we ever saw him do that was in 2014 when he, after the first couple days, he had like a really bad start. He kept messing up workouts. And then after the clean event, they had the clean ladder, the speed clean ladder that year, and he was like 0.2 of a second too slow to be in the last heat, and therefore was like not in the last heat going into the final event of that day, which was the 21:59 complex, which is like deadlifts, snatches, clean and jerks, and then like this like toes to bar pull up, or like pull up chest to bar muscle up complex, like 21:15.9, like 777, 555, 333, and
you got all that down correctly.
Yes. So for the full time of his entirety of CrossFit career, starting from the second event he ever did in 2010. So in 2010, the first event he was in like the second heat, because it was like the first event he was ever in. But from that point on, he had always been in the last heat and always just been beating the person next to him. And that was how he won the CrossFit Games. In this event, 2014, it was the first time in his career that he needed to do well in an event. And it wasn't the people next to him he was trying to beat. It was the people coming after him he was trying to beat. And he tells this story about James Hobart, who had just gone, telling him, hey, man, it's going to feel like you need to pace it, but trust me, you don't need to pace it. Just go out there, go as fast as you can, and it's going to be over before you know it. And Rich came onto the field and delivered what can only be described as like an earth-shattering performance to like, it's a 5.5 minute workout, and he finished 40 seconds ahead of second place and was just furious the entire time. So like, if we look at the peak of his ability to like sort of move weight and like do work, that was the one time he was ever really pushed. Now on the flip side, you have the furious Matt Frazier, who literally shows up every event and is like, fuck everybody. I'm going to fucking win. You guys are going to suck dick. I'm taking first place in every fucking event at the CrossFit Games. And does not care whether he beats the second place person by like 2.5 seconds or 2.5 minutes. To the point where like, even when he's pacing an event, like the last event at the 2017 CrossFit Games.
That was the only moment where he slows down for just a second.
Yeah, he slows down for just a second, looks around, and realizes he's still in fucking first place.
Yes.
And he's like, hey, what are you guys even doing with your time? Do you not exercise? Do you not practice this shit? And then goes on to fucking win that event again.
Yep.
The point is, you can't say who's better, because we never really saw Rich at his best, in my opinion. He always rose to the level of competition that he was presented with. So I feel like if he was ever presented with Matt Frazier as his level of competition, we would see a type of Rich Froning that we had not seen previously. But Matt Frazier isn't giving anybody the room to breathe, which you're right. He's not letting anybody even think. Like, if you look at what Matt Frazier is doing and you try and compete against him and you allow him to get in your head, you have lost. And you will never win. Because that is the game he is playing. He is playing the game of, I train harder than you, I train better than you. Look how badly I beat everybody last year.
Yes.
Yeah. Just to illustrate that point, we put up a free workout with Jacob Hepner that we have. That was like, by all means, from what I've ever seen written on paper, impossible.
Oh yes, I saw this.
Yeah, it's seven strict handstand push-ups, 10 overhead squats.
10 strict handstand push-ups, 7 overhead squats every minute on the minute for 10 minutes. And when Jake told us this workout, he was like, hey man, this workout to me is impossible. In the meantime, between him telling us that and then us publishing that video, he had completed it, but it took him a little bit of training to get it done.
And Jacob is in the Central Regional, which is also where a so-called Matt Frazier just moved to.
Yes.
Jacob's probably one of the biggest dogs in the Central region. Matt Frazier found this workout did it just to motherfuck Jacob Abner.
And he specifically put up the video was like, I warmed up with this so-called quote-unquote impossible workout today.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
I've been killed. Yeah, so there's
That's the head games he plays, man.
yeah, the head games that Matt is playing is like
Maybe that's why he moved to Cookeville, to learn how to play head games.
I wouldn't be surprised. Froning was doing it better than anybody else. He was keeping his programming kind of a secret, and he would invite people out, and he would do like crazy fucking volume. Anytime anyone was visiting, he would do crazy fucking volume.
Plus, he was listening to Head Games by Foreigner all the time. Head Games. Head Games. If I knew one more word to this song, I would sing it, but I don't know. Head Games.
Yeah,
It's been a while since I've had
everything
a dad
about
rock
this.
station on. So.
good move. So yeah, that's the story, and I'm sticking to it.
You guys keep talking while I look up the lyrics to Head Games.
I think we're just gonna wrap this one up. Thanks for listening, everybody. Really appreciate you jumping in on us for this first of 2018 episode of Scales Needed. Kyle, your Instagram and stuff.
1 second, I'm still looking up the lyrics to
Kyle
Head
is
Games.
at Mr. Kyle Bogart. Cliff.
I'm at Cliff Bogart on an Instagram thingy that now has lots of thingies on it from Iceland.
Yo,
Nice.
people are hyped about those Icelandic updates from Cliff. Like, we have people commenting, asking for more of it.
Huh.
Go back to Iceland.
The only reason I put anything on there was because my mother asked me to like send photos and stuff, so I did, all for her.
Yes.
So I don't know. If she asked me again to put photos
Important
on
to
there, I
note
might
that
have
our
to.
mother is a corpse in a rocking chair in a basement in a motel with no guests, run by Cliff.
Yeah.
She actually met. I think she did. Your sister did. Someone messaged me on Instagram. With every time we had like a story up where Cliff was in it, she was like, "Yeah!" Like thumbs. And I was like,
that would
"This
be
is
our mother."
awesome."
That's 100%.
It was
your mother.
awesome.
would be
And
our
she
mother,
also
yeah.
sent me a picture of your dad. Yeah,
Oh yes.
that was pretty cool.
I think he was featured on the website for
He
his
was.
CrossFit box.
He was.
Our father, the 34th fittest man in this region, in the
60 and over.
60 and over.
That's legit.
division. Super legit.
Daniel, your Instagram?
I'm at a supersonic man.
Noise. Chase?
And I'm Chase504 on all of the things.
And you can find me at Armin Hoist. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening and watching along, and we will catch you next week.
Head game.